Welcome to TFO Next Morning, where we're going to go over the Week 5. So let's hit it up with the recap. So on Thursday Night Football, we had the Pallet Poke Ballers take on the South Jersey Slashers. And the Slashers come up with a big victory here. Ballers 14, Slashers 28. Then on, Saturday Night Special, the Beer Gods took on Weapon X's. And the Beer Gods with an amazing comeback, just unbelievable victory here, 31 to X's 28. And then we got the Sunday afternoon games. All American Alcoholics, they went up against the Racial Slurs. They were able to be victorious, 34 to the Slurs 28. Lost Survivors taking on the Hollywood Heroes, and in an impressive victory here, the Survivors were able to take down the Heroes. Survivors 42, Heroes 28. That's a game where Al Bundy had 4 touchdowns, and Heroes still couldn't come up with the victory. Nocturne Maniacs took on the Greek Legends, with the Maniacs edging them out 28 to Legends 21. Zeus did throw 2 interceptions here, but Barry God Sanders fumbled the ball at a critical time, and I think the Legends would have won this one if Barry could have held onto the ball. 8-Bit Brigade took on the Stellar Offenders, and in a statement game, the Brigade lost 7 to Offenders 21. I am a believer of the Offenders now. They have totally impressed me. So they're looking great, and I believe they're tied for their division right now, 4-1. The Hoovians faced off against the Raider All-Stars, with the Raider All-Stars getting the victory, 17 to All-Stars 21. That game saw a punt return touchdown by Tim Brown. Just incredible. The Celestial Defenders took on the Rap Kings, and the Defenders blew the Kings out of the water, 38 to 0. The Kings always look impressive, but they lose these blowout games, so it's just crazy to see their progression here in TFO. The Chumps faced off against the Robot Masters, with the Chumps getting a victory, 31 to Masters 24. Chumps are another team I really like, but Proto Man had over 200 yards passing today, and just the Masters just couldn't come up with the victory. It's just wild that the Chumps had so much less yardage compared to what the Robot Masters were able to do. G.I. Joe against the Westeros Guardians. Go Joe getting the big victory here, 35 to Guardians 21. I really think that Snake Eyes finally came out of his shell. He's not getting as many carries as I think he should be getting, but he's getting all the yards. So as long as he's getting the yards, keep going with it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Torturers against the Boxhead Capers. Capers, huge victory here. Torturers had 6. Capers had 35. They've really come out of their shell, the Capers have. They started off with 2 losses, I believe, and they've won their last 3. And on Sunday Night Football, the VGV guys gave us the DBZ squad against the Azrothian Assassins, with the squad edging out the Assassins 17 to 14. We saw Broly go down in this matchup, and the squad was still able to hang on. Kid Gohan running 14 times for 66 yards isn't that impressive, and so this was a horrendous game in a way, very defensive. But DBZ squad looking like they were 3 wins, 2 losses. So let's talk about the standings. That's a great segue. For the Bad Snap division, we have the Offenders and the Lost Survivors at the top, 4-1 each. In the Bad Crackle division, we got the Beer Gods on top, 4-1. In the Bad Pop division, we have the Nocturne Maniacs and the 8-Bit Brigade sharing the lead, 3-2. The Mad standings for Snap, they had the bye this week, so Venture Industries is still on top, 3-1. In the Mad Crackle, All American Alcoholics are in the lead, 4-1. And in the Mad Pop, the Defenders, with their victory this week, jump into first, 3-1-1. It's going to be interesting how that tie plays out as we get deeper into the season. Injury report, boom, injury report there. On my screen, it's really small. I'm going to open it up here. Whoop, now it's really big so I can see all the names. Copy Robot coming back next week. That's pretty big for the Robot Masters. They really need his leadership. I mean, Proto Man was throwing lots of yardage this week, but it's just they just haven't been able to be a cohesive unit without Copy Robot. So hopefully he's going to make a big impact. Napoleon for the World Warriors coming back, great receiver. So they're coming back from that bye week, so I bet you that helped him rest. Tyrant Mara, Nocturne Maniacs coming back. They had a huge game this week with the Penis Chariot out. So it's impressive to see them being able to work as a unit without Mara, and now he's coming back. So that's scary shit. Turtles really need Super Shredder back, so that's going to be good to see him. And Broly for the DBZ squad, they need him back for sure. And the Spider-Man for the Weapon X's, they basically lost their game because Iceman was in there and just couldn't catch that final reception. So, heck, all these returns are huge, really. Even Roddy Piper down there, Hot Rod Piper, the Hall of Famer's coming back tight end. So, all that's great. Only really backups and second wide receivers are out. Still Rash Gyarados for Pokemon. It kind of sucks that he's out. And I'm going to close that window. And we're going to go into the bye reminder. Remember, the Hollywood Heroes, the Whovians, Lost Survivors, and Boxhead Capers have the week off. So go to the beach, play some volleyball, enjoy the sun. But remember, don't play football because you're not to play this week. So now my top 5. So this week for my top 5, I'm going to go with top 5 interesting records at this point in the TFO season. So these are records that have been in previous seasons of TFO, records that currently exist for our league, and 5 ones that I found interesting with what's going on in TFO currently. So number 5 is left inside linebacker Saiyan Nappa of the Dragon Ball Z squad. I really put him on here mainly because he had 5 sacks this week. Just incredible pressure on the Azerothian Assassins. He was in there, in the face, just sack after sack. He currently has 8 on the season, and that's tied for first with Miss Piggy. The current record for sacks is Arrogant Bastard from the 2015 Beer Gods, and that's 26 sacks. So Nappa and Piggy are on track for around a 26 sack season if this continues. So we should keep our eyes on him. But if Nappa has another 2, 3, or 4 5 sack games, wow, just how impressive would that be? Number 4 is quarterback John Locke of the Lost Survivors. He has 0 interceptions and 16 passing touchdowns and 21.6 yard average per reception. He's the number 1 quarterback in TFO. He's number 1 in all those categories. Just incredible season that man is having. At least we know he won't reach the most passing interceptions for a season. That was JT Marsh for the Exo Squad Aggressors in 2015. He had 17 interceptions. I don't think Locke's going to have that because he has 0 right now. But no starting quarterback has ever went an entire TFO season without at least 1 interception. So can John Locke be the first? Don't tell him what he can't do. Number 3 is Al Bundy of the Hollywood Heroes. He has 964 yards with 14 touchdowns. He's number 1 in scoring and number 1 in rushing yards. The current most rushing yards record is Bonaire from the Cleveland 2014 Steamers. He had 3,314 yards, so at the current Bundy pace, he'll fall shy by like 300 yards. He really needs to pick that up. But one that's more obtainable to him currently is the current scoring record, which is also held by the same Bonaire of the 2014 season with 46 touchdowns. Al's current average is about 2.8 touchdowns per game, so he's on track to have about a 45 touchdown season. So he could potentially break that record. He just really needs to stay healthy and keep charging forward. He needs more than 4 touchdowns per games. That's what he really needs. Number 2, punt returner, kick returner, and wide receiver Tim Brown of the Raider All-Stars. He scored the only punt return touchdown of this season this past weekend. It's not an easy thing to do. He is now tied for the punt return record for touchdowns. Tyrion Fodring of the Azerothian Assassins 2015 and Funshine of the Care Bears 2015 each have had 1 punt return touchdown. So Tim Brown, there's a huge amount of season, 11 games to go for him. So if he can get 1 more, he will not tie that record. He will beat that record. This is Tim's 4th season in TFO. His first season, he was a punt returner, and then he went out of that slot, and now he's back. So welcome back to punt return and Tim Brown getting an impressive touchdown. Number 1 is quarterback the Wolverine of the Weapon X's. He has 91 rushing yard attempts for 479 yards and 7 touchdowns. The previous record for most rushing attempts for a quarterback was Princess Belle from the Rainbow Unicorns 2014 team. She had 73 attempts. So the Wolverines already shattered that record. He's going to run more than any quarterback ever imagined. So that's insane. The current record for most rushing yards for a quarterback was Jim Plunkett of the Raider All-Star 2014. He had 1,024 yards. The current record for most rushing touchdowns for a quarterback was also the same Jim Plunkett with 16 touchdowns. He's in that area. He could potentially go for those type of records. He has 7 touchdowns currently, so he only needs 9 more with 11 games to go. And he's halfway to the rushing yards record right now, almost as well. The problem Wolverine's been having, and this is what's been killing the Weapon X's truthfully, is he has a 5.2 yards per carry average. He didn't even rank in the top 30 for this week for rushing yard average. That's horrendous for how much he's rushing, how many times, and how many yards he should be getting. The best rushing yard average for a quarterback, at least 15 attempts, was the RC in the inaugural season. Bitsmack Slackers 2013. He had a 35.43 yard average. So it's been 4 seasons, and no quarterback has ever come close to what the RC did in the first season. So Wolverine, pick it up. All right, and see you next Tecmo. So I look at the time. Where am I at that? 12 minutes? Hey, that's not bad. I only really took an extra minute over normally what I did. So, all right, let's talk about stuff because I can. Where's my folders? Yeah, I like looking at the records every once in a while, trying to compare teams and seeing what's up. Some things I didn't talk about. TFO, you know what? I actually have the stat report here, don't I? Yeah, let's do that. So, number 1 offense, most yards, Celestial Defenders, 1662 yards. They're having a crazy season. I think, like I said earlier, in the week, the tie really gives the illusion. And when I read these numbers, it does not benefit, or maybe it does benefit depending on the category, the Mad Snap, because they just had their first bye week. So, bye weeks this week, I believe, or this year got cut by a week. So I think we go week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I think we have 6 weeks of bye weeks. So I think it's either week 10 we stop the buys, or week 11 we stop the buys. It's one of those. So, but I did cut it by a week. That way we can catch up with the stats, because right now it's going to skew the stats, obviously, because they didn't play this week. Number 1 pass offense, All-American Alkies. Number 1 rush offense, the Hollywood Heroes. Number 1 defense, the Rainbow Unicorns. That's right. 874 yards. That's crazy. But, I mean, I really don't know what to say about that. Like, he's obviously the number 1 defense. He's holding yards. Is it because of turnovers? Because turnovers doesn't play into that number 1 defense is just yards. So, whatever your input is. Number 1 pass defense is the Beer Gods. They're just having a crushing season. Number 1 rush defense is Venture Industries. They didn't play this week, but still, if they can hold that off, a lot of these rush teams, I fear. Number 1 most scoring team, the Beer Gods. They're just great. And I saw this earlier, and I found this interesting. The number 1 least scored against team is the Boxhead Capers with 60 points, and the number 1 scoring differential is the Boxhead Capers with 80 points. So, you know what? They lost their first 2 games. They won their last 3. They're looking quite impressive. That whole bad snap division, maybe minus 1 team, is just looking phenomenal. So, and we'll just leave it at that. Player stats, John Locke, number 1 best throw rating, 257.1. He's just amazing. He's the only quarterback in TFO who hasn't thrown an interception yet. So, will luck be on Locke's side? Oh, I killed myself. Number one most reception yards is Captain Morgan of the All American Alkies, 613 yards. The Alkies always have such an impressive passing scheme. He's 4-1. He's leading his division. I can't blame Kevin Hedrick for the way he builds his team. It's a good job. Number one most rushing yards, Al Bundy, Hollywood Heroes, 964 yards. Impressive. He does have the rushing title right now, but his team's not looking good these last two games. But he's looked phenomenal. I'm not blaming the Bundy. He's the number one scorer as well, 14 touchdowns. So number one interceptor is Tennant for the Hoovians, 4 interceptions. Really, not a lot of interceptions by teams this year. It seemed like early on it picked up and then it just kind of halted here. So hopefully more interceptions next week. Number one sacker, Nappa of the Dragon Ball Z's and Piggy of Boxhead Capers, 8 sacks each. I was saying this earlier. They're both impressive. Messed spelling up there. Number one field goal kicker, Alex of the 8-Bit Brigade and Yingling Logger of the Beer Gods with 7 field goals. Alex has had this title for like 3-4 weeks, and he has just been crap since he got the lead, and Logger really has come from behind. What I find interesting about this is the Beer Gods are 4-1. They're looking tremendous this season, and they have their number one kicker now. And I mean, AB Brigade's been nothing to sneeze at. Their last 2 games have blown, but I mean, I blame Alex for that a lot because I know he missed a bunch of those field goals, which is crap, especially since he kicked so many early on. So sorry, Belong. I know you're listening to this, but I mean, I don't trust Alex anymore. I'd go with Yingling Logger if you're in fantasy. Number one punter, Blazinkin of the Pokemon Pokeballer Palette Pokeball Pokemons. 65.3 yard average. I don't think he's kicked one not as a touchback. Touchbacks don't count in this average because it doesn't track those. I don't know why. If I could find out how to do that, I would do that. But I mean, until he kicks one inbounds as a different average, we're stuck with him. Number one punt returner is Butch of the Hall of Famers. He's been out injured, so he's got that 35-yard average. So when he comes back next week, that should level that out. And then number one kickoff returner is Freddie Krueger of the South Jersey Slashers, 27.4 yard average. He's been really crazy. So, yeah. So what did I think of this week? Well, when I was doing everything, I thought it was crazy that, I mean, everybody has a win and everybody at least has a loss. But there's a good amount of teams that are 4-1. And I think that makes everybody look pretty good. There are some teams that are 1-4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 teams that only have 1 win. So that's like what, a fourth of the league. So that's not good. But the 4-1s are 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. I guess I wasn't right. I thought there would be more than that. Man, that's kind of crazy. Well, see, that's why we have this kind of radio show, so I can talk to you about things that I think are happening and find out the truth. So yeah, 4-1. So real Bad Snap has 2 4-1 teams, the Offenders and the Survivors. So that's really a shootout there. And then 2 of their other teams are 3-2. So everybody's in it really in that division. The Hoovians still could come back. I know that they've had some troubles. Really scoring is the problem there. Look at that, 76 points. Man, that's one of the lowest. It's kind of crazy because the Hoovians have 76 points, but they've allowed 134 points. Whereas when I look at like the DBZ squad, they're 3-2. They've scored only 74 points, but they've allowed 96. They have 3 wins, but they've allowed so many more points than they've made. It's just crazy, like how that all works out. It's because some of these blowout games, a lot of these blowout games, it's insanity. Like teams are scoring in ways that I don't like. The Rap Kings. How can they have just get decimated by the Defenders? And isn't it the Defenders? Maybe this speaks more to the Defenders then, because didn't they also shut out the South Jersey Slashers at some point this season? And I know that team's a good team, and I know the Rap Kings are a good team. Heck, South Jersey has only lost to the Defenders, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, if that's the only 2 losses they have all season, then they just got to hope and pray they don't have to play the Defenders anymore. But, yeah, the Defenders look crazy. What about the Turtle game? The Turtles against the Boxhead Capers. I guess that speaks more to the Boxhead Capers. I know Shredder went down. He was looking great before he went down. He had 3 carries for 114 yards. Yeah, so if he had stayed in it, it would have been a very competitive game because they ran it. It says here 9 more times, so 9 times. How many yards per average he had before. I think that would have made this a much more competitive game. Just blowouts like that. It's just crazy to see that. Even like the offenders really were blowing out the brigade. Mark Summers probably like, yeah, I scored that touchdown in garbage time. But the truth is, Mark Summers sucked dick that game. 3 interceptions. Just, man, like craziness. Looking through it, why not? Beer Gods was another one. Like the whole comeback really, like Weapon X has really got out ahead by 14 points real quick because it was 14-0, and man, just incredible. Just incredible. The Alkies got a good victory this week too, taking them 4-1. They're always a serious competitor. So, you know what? Let's look at that. Who do I like? I'm gonna pick my playoff teams. I'm gonna start the playoffs. So you get the offenders and the survivors, right? Well, I guess you get your division champions first. So let's go with the offenders, beer gods, and nocturne maniacs, and then we're gonna take wild cards, which would be the lost survivors, and then it would be a 3-2 team. So it would be the Boxhead Capers and the Hollywood Heroes. Wow, right? Yeah. So 4 teams would go from the bad snap. And then the other 2 teams would be the Beer Gods and the Nocturne Maniacs. The 8-Bit Brigade would miss out, wow, because of their loss this week. And the DBZ squad, they're in negative when it comes to differential. That's kind of crazy. That's a hell of a division, that bad snap, I think it's because they've been getting those free samples of that Jesse Ventura chewing tobacco. But, ever since that marketing push has really come out, the Hollywood Heroes, they lost their last 2. So I that might be hurting them. But yeah, that's a crazy division. The Boxhead Capers, they're 3-2, but they have that 80-point differential. At insanity. Insanity. They're a team to definitely keep on your radar. Right down here in the mat, it would be what? Venture Industries, All American Alcoholics, the Celestial Defenders, and then it would go with the Champs Chumps, Greek Legends, and the Hall of Famers. Yeah. South Jersey Slashers and Rap Kings would miss out because of their differential. I know that the Mad Snap only has one less victory and all that, but I mean, I'd have to go with the Hall of Famers just based on their 2-2. They have the same losses, I guess I'd say. You know what I mean? But I'd crown them above the other ones. I think South Jersey and Rap Kings both have great teams. That Mad Pop division is kind of crazy too. The Pokeballers even, they've shown signs of amazingness and signs of suckiness, but it's all part of the deal. I like seeing G.I. Joe with 2 victories. I believe they won their last 2. Snake Eyes is really starting to come back. You definitely can tell he wasn't healthy at the beginning of the season. He got injured that first game, I believe, and he just hasn't been running as much as they should. I don't think they feel safe with it, but when he does run, man, does he get all those yards. Like, he's a crazy beast. Watch out for him. I love the Champs Chumps. I've been singing their praises. They're a team. Them and the Lost Survivors, those are teams. Team efforts. You see a lot of these teams try to pull just the one and gun. It's like the Weapon X's this week, I was really impressed with how they were able to spread around the ball, spread the love. They did lose. They had a total breakdown there at the end of the game. But I mean, before the total breakdown, I thought it was amazing. So, all right. Yeah, that's plenty of time. So, good job all this week. I've enjoyed it. And see you next Tecmo.